If you're an independent route owner hungry to learn from the best in the business, Routecast is your podcast, transforming your business one episode at a time. Routecast is an independent podcast production. We are not affiliated with, sponsored by, or representing any company or organization. Everything you hear is straight from us and our guests, just real people sharing real experiences. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment to help us spread the word. Welcome to Routecast. I'm your host, Emily Blair.
And I'm your host, Jake Hirsch. In today's episode, we speak with Charlie York. Charlie has been operating in FedEx for over 10 years and has gone 2.0 in one terminal and is prepping to go 2.0 in a second terminal this summer. We dive deep into revenue and margin ramifications of 2.0, what not to do when approaching 2.0, and how to retain and hire great VCs that run your business. I really doubt you're going to want to miss this one. All right, Charlie York, thank you so much for joining us on the Routecast pod. How are you today?
I'm doing just fantastic. Thank you for inviting me today.
Cool. Thanks for coming. So I wanted to kick us off. I was talking to a contractor today and heard this analogy that I thought was great. So imagine you've been in business for 10 years, like your business, and your business is playing Tetris, and these blocks are dropping down, you're clearing rows, and then all of a sudden after 10 years, half of the blocks turn red and a timer starts clicking down. And you have a certain time to clear these boxes. Otherwise, your business goes into disrepair. And those boxes turning red, the analogy is relating to time commits and going 2.0. So you in your business, you've gone 2.0 in one terminal. And now you're approaching going 2.0 in a second terminal. I wanted to really dive into how you initially went 2.0 with your first terminal that you went 2.0 in last year, and how that is changing how you approach 2.0 in the other terminal that you're going this summer.
I guess there's just a better understanding. So many times you'll hear from FedEx, there's a new program rolling out, whether, the 10 years, there's been a lot of change, whether it was the merger between ground and home delivery, or, the Saturday service or the Sunday implementation. There's so many times, and then it kind of fades away, that you don't know exactly what's coming from FedEx, and they try to be upfront with you on it, but it's never exactly the way they advertise it. The 2.0, I don't want to say they undersell it, because they take it serious, but like, as much as we thought we were prepared for it, we weren't. So now that we know exactly what's going to be there, we can kind of go off of our experiences and say, hey, we know that's really going to be here and we understand this better. And 50 stops, if you have 50 stops in a day and a time commits, you think it's no big deal, but then you realize you have to run that route all out of sequence. Not a route, but every route out of sequence. And so if you're used to doing 25 stops an hour, and now all of a sudden you're going to do 15, and for the whole day, because that first hour you're only getting off 3 or 4 stops because you've ran the entire route backwards, or, you're not able to get the stop across the street. You have to go back in that same neighborhood again. Even though in the beginning, FedEx did tell us not to do it that way, run the route efficiently, but you can't. We've tried several things, different ways, and it's definitely been probably the most challenging thing. And we've done a lot of different paths with FedEx, whether it's, taking over a contingency contract somewhere else, taking over a failing area somewhere else, a startup, an awarded CSA. This was by far even a year later, we're still struggling with POs because it doesn't fade away. You still have it every day, every day you have a brand new opportunity to fail again or hopefully deliver. So.
Can you tell us about kind of the transitions you went through as you were trying to figure out the best way to do it? I know you said you tried a few different ways. Can you talk through what you tried first, what didn't work, what wound up working most days, where you're at now?
So in the beginning, we just tried locking. We're ground cloud. A lot of contractors out here use ground cloud. Um, and so we tried locking the routes where it made them do their POs first, their priority overnights first. And that didn't last very long, less than a week. And so then we came back with like maybe trying to dispatch a couple routes early and with just POs. And then the drive on that was just so entailed. You couldn't do it. I mean, it's a large CSA up there that we had. And then we came back and we started trying to hire some of the AVPs as alternative vehicle program, the people who drive their own cars. And that didn't really work a whole lot just because, again, it's a little bit unique for us, but everybody's unique, right? There's no two CSAs the same. So for me to say it's unique, it's fair, but it's unfair because everybody is. Um, but you know, every day we try something different. Right now we're trying where we put a couple on the managers and have them get what we think are going to be missed, and that seems to be the theme with a lot of these guys. I think they're doing that. The BCs, they're taking out what their at-risk stops are in the morning or some bulk stops and making sure those other guys can kind of hit that and get through that. And along the way, you have that same day on calls that pop up, and you have to manage through those as well.
So it sounds like you're really adapting every single day on the fly with your breaking some things off and giving them to BCs to deliver. Why? I wanted to talk a little bit more. Why did running the AVP program not help in the advent of 2.0?
They weren't getting enough stops for you to bring them in to do any work. And even though you were trying to get them, so if they would come in and they take 15 stops out, that's an hour's worth of work. What are they doing for the rest of the day? It's like it's not worth their time. So maybe we were trying to shuttle and having them go catch up with somebody and provide some support on that. But by the time you start doing that, then, when you go and take stops from somebody, that's time out of their day. Right. So if you catch up and you take 15 stops, it might take you 15 minutes to do that. So how much time did you really save the guy? Maybe 15 minutes. So it just wasn't as productive for us either. We tried doing some shuttling and some different things, maybe against the unique clause or whatever. Also, FedEx had that incident. Was it in Memphis where they had the plane incident that kind of delayed some of these cans coming in the morning for a couple months? That really kind of hurt us for a little while as well.
Do you have 10:30 as your first commit time?
We do. Currently, we have 10:30s in Rocky Mount, which comes out of Wilson.
Okay. And how far away is that?
It's about 35 minutes.
Okay. And have you struggled getting those first time commits at 10:30, or is it just kind of all day long is the challenge?
So predominantly, it's the 10:30s. We do have some on the back end, and that's where the station can, we'll take a lot of ownership of this, and that's separating those express packages, because when they're mixed in, so like let's say you go to a bulk stop, a hospital, and you have 100 boxes going there, and maybe one of those boxes is mixed in and it happens to be a 10:30 or 12 o'clock mixed in with another stop, and it's just impossible to find. And so now you have to double back, and so we struggle with that a little bit. But to your point, that the 130s we do a much better job of, and that's really it on the POs. After that, there's no issues.
And Charlie, in the terminal that you've been 2.0 in for over a year now, what has that done to your revenue in that terminal? And more importantly, what's that done to your margin within that terminal?
So with FedEx, they recognized immediately. So we went in January, actually like February 5th or something like that. The contract was in January, and then I think you have like 30 days after the go live before they bring you to freight. Before April, they had implemented something to help us out with that. They knew that they had negotiated bad contracts for us, and that marketing director there come in and develop the plan. And I think they've done this in several markets where they've done it. I think every market's been a little bit different. But he came in and helped us out and really renegotiated the entire building before the end of the year. But it was the back half of the year, just before peak. He kind of implemented something. revenue, obviously revenue goes up quite a bit for several reasons. One, you're delivering more freight. Two, they know there's some lost efficiencies. The margin, I think it probably stayed close to the same. If you're operating on that 10 or 12 margin, because if you're disciplined and you run that 40 margin on payroll, then you're still disciplined and you still run that 40 margin. And if you use truck cost at 10% or whatever, you're just disciplined in those areas. If you're not, then it can get out of hand on you. So,
Yeah, definitely. Can you go through those numbers? Because I think everybody does it a little bit differently when they're working their business. So for you, you said you're at about 40% payroll, about 10% trucks. Can you just do that general breakdown for us for your CSAs?
so we like to be at 40. We're not always there. Sometimes we're better, sometimes we're worse. But yeah, we like to be at 40% on payroll, not counting managers. Managers were a little bit higher, or, we're at like 10% on them. But we're a little thick heavy on the top. And my managers have been there for a long time. So, I mean, I've had managers there almost the whole time. David's been there since the very beginning. So he's been here with me 9 years. Lyric's been there like 8. He was with me, and then we sold the business and we bought it back. He came back with me. So yeah, I mean, these guys have been there a long time with me. So because of that, annual raises, they get a little bit heavy. We're like 12% probably on management payroll. And in trucks, we like to be at about 10% of top line revenue. But we look at the totality of payroll costs. We look at payroll, your payroll tax, your workman's comp. We look at all that on payroll. Some people, I don't know what they look at, but that's how we look at it.
There are a couple things that I want to unpack there. One, you mentioned that you sold your routes and then got them back. What happened there? When was that? Was that pre 2.0? Was that post 2.0? How did that happen?
So yeah, so we sold them. I think it was like 21, and the gentleman ran it for a couple years, and then he just got into the safety piece. A lot of contractors fall into that a little bit, and they weren't going to renew him, and so we got it back in 23, and then they rolled live in 25 with the 2.0. So we got it back in like, I don't know, maybe August of 23, April of 23. I mean,
Did you sell or finance it? How did you go about getting it back? Was that an issue with FedEx at all?
so it can be, and we did sell or finance it, and it can be, but we were in a good place. We've tried to maintain a good relationship with FedEx. It's not always been great. I mean, we have had, safety issues in the past with, again, I think a lot of people go through this. I know a lot of contractors, and everyone that's honest about it, a lot of times will tell you, yeah, they've been in a safety struggle. I'm not saying everybody has been, but I feel like it's a widespread issue. But at the time, we were in a really good place. And again, we've tried to maintain a pretty good working relationship with FedEx. So if we're in the building, we try to say hello. If they need help, we try to be a resource for them. And it's helped us. It's definitely helped us. So.
That's awesome. I know you mentioned that you've had your managers there for a long time. Would you say that that has been a big help for safety, or what do you attribute your ability to pull yourself up on safety when others haven't been able to?
So, yeah, everybody has their own safety program, and I wish there was some blanket program you can kind of roll out and say everything. But honestly, I find that when we don't talk a lot about safety, if you don't preach it, then it kind of falls to the wayside. And all the punishment you can inflict or all the carrots you can reward people with doesn't help if you don't talk about it every day, literally every day, then it gets in trouble. So, when we've been in safety, what we do is start really preaching it like every day, every text that goes out, every message. You just have to mention it over and over again. And when we don't, I sort of blame myself for it because everything kind of starts and stops with me. I'm not involved every day with every little thing, but I know that if I don't talk it, nobody else is. So when we've been behind the wheel, I've just taken the lead and said, "Hey guys, this is my fault. We got to fix this today." And it's the easiest thing. It's the hardest thing to fix, but it's the easiest thing to stop issues from going forward.
Can you say what are the safety violations that you see most often?
Honestly, they're so silly. It's a yard rut or a tap in a mailbox. And it's the simplest things. And I was talking to the senior manager the other day. I was like, your safety score is what it is, right? It is what it is. We're 2 in one building and a 4 in another. And in the building we're 2, and I'm like, it's not like we're not out here destroying parked cars and things like that. We're in here for a a $50 yard rut. I mean, we had a guy complain that we ruined his grass seed. I'm not a landscaper. I don't know anything about that, but I can't imagine that grass seed is just, but maybe it is. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's a safety incident. That's what it is.
What's ironic about that is I do seed my grass every year, and top dress it. And I was contemplating buying a roller that you fill up with water to push. So it pushes the grass seed actually down into the topsoil. So I think that driving a tire over it would actually help the grass seed take, opposed to hurt it. But neither here nor there. So, okay, you said that you wanted to mention safety every single text, every email, every conversation. What does that actually look like? Like, at the bottom of your text message, does it say like safety first, or do you say, hey, just a reminder, buckle your seatbelt? What's the minutia of it?
So, it could be a couple different things. If I'm addressing the group, I will start the conversation off with safety and just mention the last incident, whether it had been a month ago or whether it had been last week. We just try to mention that. When there's an event that happens, again, no matter how small it is, we just try to, send out like a flash text to let everybody know. When I have the floor, I just try to mention it, something about it, like, hey, let's be safe. And if we've had a stretch, then just talk about that. I'll say, safety's not lucky. There's preparation and effort that goes into it. It's not, hey, we've been on a good roll. It's like, hey, you guys have been doing a great job here lately maintaining this. Safety's not lucky. You're not lucky. You're either you are what you are.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to change gears just a little bit and move back to the 2.0 questions. So, with 2.0, I've heard that there doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason as to the changes that are made when the transition happens. With the new terminal, have you noticed? I mean, is there a lot of changes happening for you and other contractors? Are they favorable? Are some people getting more, some people getting less? How's that look in your terminal?
So I've seen it happen to other contractors. I've seen them take a guy out of one area and move him to another. I've seen them expand one guy's. I've been fortunate. We had a good CSA in both areas, and we did a decent job. Nothing changed in either one of my CSAs. It was 100% stable in both markets. I mean, nothing at all. We were overlapped 100%, full zips, and so nothing happened to us. Now, I've known good contractors where they got changed, displaced, or whatever. People who make those decisions don't include me on them.
And with that, how are you changing the way that you're approaching this transition to 2.0 that's happening this summer versus what you did a year ago? And what have you learned in that year?
So we're relatively optimistic with this transition. One, that late arrival of those planes is behind us. And two, we don't have 10:30s in this one. We're only at 12 o'clocks. And we aren't in the zip code the station's in, but we're the neighboring zip code beside it. So it's like a 15-minute drive to our first stop, 10-minute drive. So what we plan on doing, if the trailer's late, we're going to just dispatch the guys and have our BC sit back and grab that extra freight. And then we plan on doing some shuttling. So some of the rural routes that don't necessarily have, the 12 o'clock businesses, we're probably going to put some on them so they can catch it on the way out of town, to kind of help with that a little bit. But that's going to be a daily night process, where you have to schedule that in DRO the night before.
Yeah. And then what are you doing? I hear a lot about bulk and large packages. And you mentioned that you've got a hospital in one of your CSAs. Are you doing specifically a bulk truck? Are you doing multiple bulk trucks? Are you splitting out large packages? How do you manage that?
So that was definitely a challenge in the beginning. So the Rocky Mount is very industrial market. We had a bulk truck up there before, and we've actually gotten rid of that bulk truck because we go to a factory and would get that first stop off at 10:30 and nothing else on that route would get off. So we had to put a step van up there. And because of that, now you have 10 factories on 10 different route trucks or something similar to that. But the station was great and helped us out with that quite a bit. And we don't currently use a bulk truck. We just try to lessen the queue. We try to get those bulk stops off first. So like if you have 250 boxes on a P1200, then you just try to get those 100 boxes off first, and then the truck gets a little bit emptier. and you try to limit the POs after that because you realize that's going to take a little bit of time to get that stops off. And sometimes, again, at the hospital where you're in a complex like that, he may be the only one with the 1030. There may be two other trucks that have to go in there and get those other stops, especially if you get behind somebody at those bulk stops. You have to start scanning packages early before you back up to the dock to make that window. And it is by far their priority every day. So FedEx will send us a recap every day of how you did, whether it's PPOD, picture proof of delivery, or PPODA, picture proof of delivery attempt. They'll send that information out to us every day. But the number one thing every day, and the only thing they really have conversations with you about, phone call you about, is your PO, is your priority overnight. That's what they want to talk about every day. You either make it or you didn't. And you're only as good as your last day. So they will tell you missed it 4 out of the last 6 days, or you made the last 4 out of 6 days. They know that's such a priority to them. And I was told today by a P&D manager that they were told the first day that we roll here that if they have to roll ground freight over that first day, 5 trailers, that's better than having 200 fail on PO. They better not have that.
So, in transitioning this second terminal this summer into 2.0, you mentioned that you don't have 1030 time commits. And so you might have your managers or BCs hang back, pick those up, which is going to lead to more work for them and adaptation for them in the way that they operate on a daily basis. How do you prep them for that? How are you training them for that so you keep those BCs like you have for the last 10 years instead of them leaving and going somewhere else?
So them staying back is a contingency. That's if that can comes in late. If that can comes in on time, then it'll be part of the dispatch. But so often those cans come in late. So we're like 5 minutes from the express station now. And so we'll hear that last can came in at 9:55. That's late for us to dispatch. Because the dispatch is only half of it. You have to return to building time increases also, or is a little bit earlier. So you can't have drivers out there excessively late if you have express boxes that are coming back. So that's a contingency. So it's just like anything else. I mean, we hope that it doesn't happen often, and we hope that those hands get here on time or on schedule, and that we'll be able to dispatch a normal time.
When 2.0 first rolled out, I had heard that FedEx was being very strict as far as getting 100% of your time commit deliveries delivered in order to receive the full payment for your express bonus. Am I getting that kind of right? Is that familiar to you?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we first rolled last year, they had mentioned that. And then again, because the marketing director kind of understood what was happening, he kind of just stopped it. And then FedEx come out nationally and said, "Hey, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep this payment for you." And then I think temporarily, I believe right now they're not doing any payments. I think everything's kind of rolled into your contract now. They're kind of getting away from that payment completely. It's my understanding. I know my contract that I have right now that I just stood up for does not have that.
Okay, so follow-up question to that. How are they incentivizing you to make sure that you get your time commit deliveries delivered in time? Is it just them following up with you like you said, or what are they doing to ensure that happens?
I guess they're going to be a little quicker to do that. What was it, the phrase? Where they come in and take your area and they recoup money for it. Um, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. So yeah, diminished services or something like that. But yeah, the expectation is you do it, or they're going to bring some help in to take some business from you. And when FedEx comes in and takes business from you, they don't take the stuff that you want to get rid of. They take the easy stuff from you. So if that's the big residential section, then you're supposed to use that resource that they made available for you to do other things.
Speaking of bringing some help in, you have in the past run some contingency, and you are currently running contingency. Is that right?
So we were running it up through February, and then since February, we've not been doing it. So we did it from like June or July through February.
How did you go about getting that? How were you awarded that? And what would be the roadmap if a contractor wants to start supplementing with contingency to go into different terminals and get that?
I think you probably can just start with your senior manager and just let him know that you have some resources available and that you're willing to step outside your comfort zone and offer some help or some assistance when somebody needs it. So we were in a station like in October of last year, and they kind of got through with us, and we were understanding we were going to be there through peak. So we kind of made some commitments. And when they got done with us, they were kind of like, this is it, goodbye. And we're like, I thought, blah, blah, blah. I was kind of like panicked a little bit. And we just went to our senior manager, and he went to the marketing director, and he's like, yeah, we'll find something for him. And they had me something like within 2 weeks. So right now, there's not any contingency out there locally, I think, in this market. But we believe there's an opportunity to probably pop up.
And would you anticipate that contingency that's going to pop up? Is that because there will be contractors who are unable to fulfill their service that they'll need help with, or is it for another reason?
Every contractor goes through different struggles and things at times. Sometimes you struggle hiring, sometimes somebody leaves. Sometimes there's a poaching contractor in the building who takes 2 or 3 drivers, and then you fall behind. Sometimes there's personal reasons, like his health or the family health is kind of deteriorating. He doesn't have the time to commit there. So I will say this: if there's somebody, and we've had this happen, if we know there's somebody struggling, we'll go to them and say, "Hey, man, do you need some help this week?" Rather than having the station step in. I will say that the people that we work with, the 2 stations that we're in, is 2 different districts, but both of them have not really punished those contractors for helping inside the station. For one, I don't think there's any money extra. And honestly, everybody understands that, like, the closer you are to the station, the lower your rate is. That the denser you are, the lower your rate is. So we're pretty dense in both markets. So we're some of the cheapest per stop people in those buildings. So when we go help, I will remind the station over and over again that I'm delivering this cheaper than what the primary contractor is doing it for. But I don't think there's ever any punishment to those guys for that.
And in running contingency, what's your fleet strategy like for that? Do you have spare trucks and that's what you're running contingency with? You said that you had some commitment, so you were a little frazzled in October when they said that they might be taking the contingency back. Were you renting trucks? What did you do?
So there was some mix there. So we knew that the second station was going to go live this year. We didn't know exactly when. We knew everybody's contract was expiring like April-ish. So we felt like that was going to kind of be the timeline. So we bought trucks for peak, and we're a little bit heavy on them. And then we also rented a few. So I've not been a big fan. We typically have not rented a lot of trucks during peak. We typically prefer to be more efficient and have branded trucks and that kind of thing. But we did do some of both. So what I was worried about was that now we have, I think we bought a lot of trucks last year, a lot of trucks. At one time in November, December, we brought 10 trucks in. That's a lot of trucks at one time. So
how'd you finance those?
That was through you. Honestly, like, it's so easy to finance a lot of times. In the beginning, it was a little bit more difficult. You start off, you don't have the great credit history and you don't have a lot of things, but now we've been doing this for a long time. I think when I first met Jake, we were in Richmond, Virginia. I just got a CSA awarded to us, and I was trying to get like 10 trucks. He gave me 2. But now I want 2 and he gives me 10. So
9 years ago. Yeah. Thanks for the shameless plug there, Charlie.
And the rates are comparable. I mean, so, a lot of times with banks, they want a P&L, they want your taxes, they want, all this stuff. And with him, it's a little bit like, hey, it's a little bit simpler. So we all need things likely be a little simpler sometimes.
That's very true. Simple is always nice. So I'd like to visit a second question on the contingency. How do you have enough drivers? Because I know that getting drivers is such a challenge for so many contractors across the country. Is there a secret?
So everybody looks at their payroll and staffing different. We're not the highest paid contractor in any building. We're not. I would venture to say we're on the lower side of pay, but we try to balance the work-life balance. So we try to work our drivers to about 5 o'clock and quit. And the speech I'll tell a lot of people, you can make another $50 a day with this guy, but you're going to work another 2 or 3 hours for it. Is it worth it to you? Maybe not. So that's sort of how we take it. And then, my P&D manager years ago said, just never stop hiring, just hire. And as silly as that sounds, like you can't do that forever. But you have to keep a bench. Maybe you don't hire 4 this week, but you're interviewing a few people and you're taking your time with the background. You're not going to hurry to pressure them to go take the drug test, and you're doing a little bit slower, but you're still just trying to process some applicants through. So we have a lot of people with a lot of tenure with us, and we think that's a lot because we do value their time and we try to get them off timely.
And are you paying a daily rate?
So you can do that as long as you have them in DOT regulated vehicles. If not, if you're an ABP driver or an L10 truck, you have to pay an hourly rate.
So have you analyzed what the difference would be in your payroll? Like, is it higher or lower? You mentioned that you're at 40%. If you were to switch from daily to hourly or per package?
So we haven't looked at like what it would do to our percentage. We did look at like what it would do to a specific driver or how that would impact our pay. And the problem isn't the per hour rate. The problem is like once you hit overtime. Okay, if they work a 6-day or if they're going to hit 40 in 4 days because of different things that have happened, or they come in early and now they're on the clock a little bit early, and we just don't have to manage that. So that's why we stay with the daily pay. It's just it's easier to budget that way, and then we have some programs that we say, hey, we literally have a stop count. At this stop count, you run this many routes. At this stop count, you run this many routes. And then there's a few variables, like if the package count's a little heavy, like on Monday, it's a little heavier because of the weekend, right? The bulk kind of piles up on us, so we run a little bit more on Monday. But yeah, that's how we look at it a little bit. So
I know you mentioned, Charlie, that work-life balance is kind of one of the selling points for a lot of your drivers. Do you offer PTO?
yes, we do. We offer 2 weeks, which is a little bit aggressive for a lot of people. We do have some rules behind us. We ask you to take a week between January and May, and then through June and October. Okay. And that just helps us with that a little bit. So some people, a lot of these guys, they've never had PTO. They've never been off work for a week. And so they truly enjoy it. We had a girl last week. And she's like, I get paid for this, right? I'm like, yeah, you get paid. You can. So this week she calls me and I'm like, yeah, you're getting paid this week. And she's like, all right, just making sure. So
That's awesome. So kind of in line with work-life balance / fleet strategy, I was talking to a contractor last week, and he's about to go 2.0, trying to prep. He's running a lot of 1000s, but he had the idea to upgrade a couple of the 1000s to 1200s. So he's able to fit more on those, and those drivers will probably be out for longer hours. However, he'll be able to get rid of maybe 1 or 2 drivers plus have more volume. Do you look at anything like that? What are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind on that was that driver's going to be out longer. He knows everybody else is back. He's probably not going to be the happiest driver. Nobody wants to be the last guy back every day. And I mean, I can't say what works. I mean, if you find the right guy and it works for you, that's probably a great strategy. But I mean, I have some guys who'll drive and live in a hotel for 8 months and won't say a word. But I don't know anybody wants to be the last driver out there every day. But I mean, there's probably somebody out there who does, man. I mean, I know BCs out there who change tires and change oil when they get done at the end of the day. I don't have those kind of BCs either. So, yeah.
So when you have your BCs running those extra stops, do you get a lot of end of day calls from dispatch asking for additional pickups?
Well, I'm not sure I know what you mean there.
I'm not sure if that's something that normally happens. It was my understanding that occasionally there will be express pickups that happen at the end of the day that you don't necessarily know about in advance.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying a minute ago. They call it same day on call. The acronym is FDOC.
Okay.
And so they come in all throughout the day. Any pickup that's not scheduled, that's a normal routine pickup, will start populating as early as 5 a.m. whenever they come in and light the station up. And what we do with them is we move them to the BC, and then he will either take care of it throughout the day or he will transfer the correct route. So if it's open right now and he's not doing anything, he'll run by there and grab the pickup. If he sees the driver's about to head there, he'll go over there and just transfer to the driver so that there's no run back on that. And he just makes that call on what he does. And we've had a few incidents where there's some parameters in there, like you can't have a pickup show up after 4:30, and we've had one show up after 4:30, so we've kind of contested, pushed back a little bit. Or they didn't give us long enough window. They only gave us like an hour window, and we're supposed to get 90 minutes or something like that. So we challenge a lot of those issues, and or you get over there to pick it up, and it's not even an express pickup; it's a ground pickup. So now you called it in for nothing, because it could have waited till the next day. Um, those issues have happened, but they're really kind of minor. I mean, they haven't been a big issue for us, and we handle a lot of pickups. In Rocky Mount, we have over 100 a day.
What what would you say the biggest thing that you see contractors get wrong about approaching 2.0?
For me, I mean, I got it wrong, and it was just underestimating. Like, you think, okay, I'm only getting another 80 stops. It's no big deal. I'm just going to add one route. I'll be fine. And it's not one route. We went from 11 routes to 15 routes. At one point last year, we were running 18 routes to get these time commits off on time. So it was just underestimating, like, the amount of time it was going to take. Again, I mentioned those factories. You go through a guard tower where they check your ID, around the building, 10 friggin' speed bumps, and go back up to a door that's blocked. You got to wait for the guy to leave. And then you back up and you get one stop off by 10:30. I was really concerned about the pickups, and it turns out the pickups were just nothing. They were fine, you know?
For those scenarios like you just described, where you've got a gate and it's going to be a big slowdown, do you find that does your DRO account for that? Does it learn that information, or is it something that you just have to know?
So I don't know that DRO can account for it. Whenever we recognized that they were going to go through here and renegotiate with us, we literally just went route by route, stop by stop, and start trying to create some sort of unique characteristics list and try to compose that and send it to the senior manager so that he could, follow it up. And then we didn't get that much help from negotiations. They were kind of like, still pretty like, you're fine, you're fine. And we went back to the senior manager again, and who got engineering involved, who really helped us out. So even though you weren't getting a lot of corporate help locally, they still recognized the opportunities that were there and the struggles, and they were able to help us out quite a bit. So FedEx, as big as they are, they still lean on the local guys a lot to understand what's going on. And if they understand, they've helped us and other people. So
Awesome. Well, Charlie, this has been absolutely incredible, and I think we're approaching our time. Emily, do you have any other questions for Charlie, or Charlie, do you have anything else that you want to add?
no, I'll say if you don't like the way it is today, just wait another year and it'll change.
Yeah. Or till
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah. There'll be an announcement tomorrow, but it won't change for a year. Yeah. So, yeah, like 2.0 doesn't scare me. I'm okay with it, and I'm okay with the challenges that may or may not come from it. And if anybody got in this thinking there was absentee ownership, shame on you for doing it. But I mean, I'm fairly absentee. There's a lot of days and weeks where I don't even go into the station, uh, but I am in touch with BCs throughout every day, phone calls, mechanics. I'm talking to people constantly. And, we were just in Florida last week. We went to Orlando and spent a day in Disney World and some time in Lazy River. And yeah. And Linda will tell you that I still work, but I didn't really. So,
Awesome. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your experiences. We really appreciate you, and
all right.
we'll
Thank
see
you.
you
Thank
soon.
you, guys.